We have the 3 different flavors, and they're named after the pH of the dye, right? So whenever they dyed blood, they noticed that some cells picked up some stains, some cells picked up others, okay? So if we talk about basic dye, these are our basophils, and it's that dark blue, dark purple, almost black, right? So here we go, here's our basophils. And like I mentioned to you guys before, it has a bilobed nucleus. So it has a big guy here and a big guy here with a little skinny bit connecting the two. So it's not a fat horseshoe like a monocyte, it's bilobed. And again, dark granules. And I always think about the pH scale. You might notice if you ever look at pHs, like red is acid, blue is base. So that follows true here, okay? So I would stick with that. And here we have our eosinophils. Eosinophils again, eosin's an acidic dye. It's just named after the dye, eosin. Eosin's always like red or pink or even kind of an orangish color. So the granules in an eosinophil are always going to be red. They pick up that dye very happily, okay? And again, you can see it has that bilobed morphology of the nucleus. Not a fat horseshoe, but a big guy and a skinny bit in the middle. Okay? Lastly, for our granulocytes, we have the neutrophil. This guy throws everyone for a loop. But just look at his nucleus. Like, to me, this is a crazy looking nucleus. You wouldn't see this on any other type of cell. You saw for the eosinophil and for the basophil, these happy little 2 lobes that are connected. But there's, I count, if these aren't 2 lobes, they're like 1, 2, and 3. And they're connected by these skinny little strings. There is nothing else that looks like this. So these are going to be our neutrophils. So don't be confused by the fact that the granules are red, right? The granules are red because they do pick up eosin. It's just a fact of life. But it's also picking up basic dye as well. And everybody knows acid plus base equals neutral. So these are our neutrophil. And you'll notice that the cytoplasm comparatively is much more purpley, okay? So it's not like perfectly red or perfectly blue, but the cytoplasm looks very purple and the granules are a little bit red. But again, these guys look nothing alike, so you shouldn't confuse them. Okay, then we have our agranulocytes, which look night and day different from each other. Again, no granules, no 3-dimensional, differently covered granules, just kind of some flecks spread out through there. So first off, we have our monocyte, and you can see that our monocyte is much larger. These aren't perfectly to scale, but monocytes are larger of all the leukocytes. You can see the fat horseshoe. It's not a lobe, and a skinny bit. It's just one big fat horseshoe that goes throughout the cell, right? And again, yeah, agranular, large. I always think monocyte, monstrous, because it's big. It's also phagocytic, so that's also kind of monster-like too. So, anyway. Okay, lastly, we have our lymphocyte. Lymphocyte, again, its nucleus takes up majority of the cell. So there's very little cytoplasm left in the cellular compartment around it. Nothing special about that. And here we have the red blood cells, which I failed to mention in the PowerPoint. These are called erythrocytes. So whenever I ask you, what kind of cell is this? I don't want RBC, I want erythrocyte, okay? Even though I didn't say it in the presentation. And the other thing that we have here is the platelets. So if you guys will learn this in your class, I'm just going to mention this really briefly, but these do start out initially as a cell. They start out as this thing called megakaryocytes, but they start to break up and split apart. So this is the platelets before it's completely broken up into individual little platelets. But at this point, it can't be considered a cell. It's just a chunks of stuff. So if you guys remember when I told you about making your little flow chart, how you'd have platelets on one side and then you have cells on the other, because platelets aren't really technically cells, they're just dead chunks of stuff.